Hey, how you feeling?
First day, I guess it feels so tiring. My legs just feel horrible. Any little climb and they just seize up. So just got to get through this ride. Hopefully it loosens them up. So day 2 of cycling in Brevard. Yesterday was a rest day. It rained pretty much all day, which is what we've had the last couple days, unfortunately. But it gave me an opportunity to fix a left squeaky pedal. Unfortunately, I didn't have most of my tools here to do the job. Needed some Loctite or some Teflon tape to take care of it. So we made the trip into Asheville to visit Youngblood Bicycles. And Eric, the mechanic there, was able to deal with it right away. So basically put some Teflon tape on the pedal axle, sorry, the pedal axle, the threaded pedal axle, threaded on the pedal, and was able to remove the squeak. So today I'm going to do the Brevard South Caesar's Head loop, which starts and ends from our rental house. I'll start off by taking Greenville Highway south for a little bit. That'll probably be the busiest road I'll be on. Once I get past that, I'll get into secondary roads, so it's going to be a really nice loop. The first third of the loop is pretty much rolling hills, so up and down for about 30 kilometers before I hit the next 30K or 25K, which is mostly flat, a few little bumps along the way. I'll have the opportunity to stop and refuel either in the town of Pinkins or Pumpkin Town, two small towns at the southernmost point of my loop. And then after that is the hard work. So the last third is almost all climbing, with the big climb being Caesar's Head, which is well known in this area. It's about a 12-kilometer climb with an average grade of 5%. So not super steep, but pretty long. As with every climb in this area, it's been ridden a lot of times by a lot of fast riders, so no chance for any top 10 finish here. Looking at Caesar's Head, I see that George Hincapie, Lance Armstrong, and Christian Vandeveld hold the 29th, 31st, and 32nd fastest times on the climb. So obviously there's some fast riders that have done this hill, but I'm looking forward to it because it's going to be I assume not too much of a technical climb or descent, but it's going to be long, so it's going to be a good workout. And yeah, it's going to be a great climb. So gotta get out there and get back before the weather forecast changes again.
So I'm about 2/3 up Caesar's Head climb. So about 8 kilometers up and about 4 kilometers to go. So the worst is over. But man, it seems harder than a 5% grade average, because there's definitely a lot of sections at 6, 7, and 8%. But it's super hot today and humid, so I'm not feeling all that fantastic. So yeah, a climb that long is never going to feel awesome when you're not feeling so great. But it's been good because this rain has stayed away and it looks like I'll have sun for the rest of the ride. And once I get to the top after 4K, it's pretty much mostly downhill and then 8 kilometers of flattish riding until we get back. So that's it for Caesar's Head.
How you doing?
It was so hard. It's a lot of climbing. Not that much distance, 1,800 meters, but it felt like 3,000 meters. That climb up Caesar's Hill is harder than I thought. Tough day, really hot too.
What's the temperature?
I have no idea.
I think it's like around 28 Celsius. And the creaking?
Creaking's there. Crank arm is shot.
So day 3 cycling in Brevard, and the morning has started out like this, bit foggy, actually quite foggy, which is kind of typical for the weather in this area. It's almost always foggy in the morning, and then it rolls out at different times, sometimes as early as 8 a.m., sometimes as late as 10 and 11. But they're calling for no rain today, cooler temperatures, so it's going to be shock to the system compared to yesterday when it was smoking hot. So at the top of Mount Mitchell, it's probably going to be around 10 degrees, but most of the climb is going to be around 12 degrees. So it's going to be cool, which is going to make it nicer, but the descent will be a bit chilly, possibly. But before I talk about the actual route, I figured out the issue with my creaky bike, and I misdiagnosed it, as did the bike shop as well. And I only realized it because it got worse during yesterday's ride, and the crank arm was actually loose. So it's because the end cap was loose as well. So it had nothing to do with the pedal. So this kind of shows you that if you just bring the right tools for the job when you travel, you can solve a lot of issues. Because these are simple things like this bolt, the lock nut for the cassette. Those are things I would check immediately if I had the tools, but I didn't. So anyway, I bought a 10 millimeter hex wrench and a proper torque wrench to make sure that I tighten that end cap to 40 Newton meters. So now it should be good to go, and should be creak free for this ride. So one thing you have to know, which is a rude awakening for anyone new to cycling in this area, it was for me, is that the Blue Ridge Parkway obviously runs all through this entire area of North Carolina and South Carolina. So if you're doing riding anywhere on Blue Ridge Parkway, you have to be aware of the tunnels. And the tunnels generally that run southwest of Asheville are not lighted and quite long. So you're going to need lights for a lot of those tunnels. If you don't have lights, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. It's tough enough going through the tunnels uphill, but if you're flying downhill, you got to have lights, and you got to have good lights. The part from the Blue Ridge Parkway from Asheville through Craigie Gardens to Mount Mitchell, there are some tunnels, but generally they're short and you don't need lights. But it's still nice to have for safety, since there's obviously cars on the road. So just keep that in mind, because if you come unprepared, and if you ever gone through a tunnel without lights in the dark, it's completely disorienting and really kind of frightening. So come prepared. So today is an out and back ride to Mount Mitchell. This is an iconic climb in the Asheville area, probably the most popular climb, not necessarily the best, but definitely the most popular. And we'll be going up Town Mountain Road to the Blue Ridge Parkway. It's about a 30-kilometer climb from our starting point, which is EW Grove Park, to the top of Craigie Gardens. 30K of mostly all climbing. There's a couple small plateau sections, but overall it's probably a 5% grade climb to Craggy Gardens. Once at Craggy, you have 15 kilometers of ascending, descending, and another ascending, descending. Anyway, a couple bumps for 15K until you get to the base of Mount Mitchell. And then from Mount Mitchell, it's a 5-kilometer climb to the top. And there the grades do get steeper, but there's a couple of plateau sections. So it's not an even climb, even grade. There's some easy parts and hard parts. And obviously after a long ride, it's quite tiring. Then at the top, turn around, and then it's 50K downhill all the way back to our starting point from Craggy. It's 30 kilometers, pretty much all the way down. But because the grades aren't that steep, it's still mostly a pedaling descent. So still a bit of a workout to get back. But it's a beautiful route. You'll see from the videos when I take a few on the ride why it is so popular, because when you look to one side, you almost always have amazing views of the mountains in this area because it's fully exposed. So definitely a must-do ride. The pavement is always excellent along this section as well. So if the weather holds up and the fog clears out, it should be a great ride. It's always a tricky ride because even if it's clear down here at low elevation at Asheville, once you get to Craggy Gardens, it can be hit and miss, and it's not uncommon to enter the tunnel just before Craggy Gardens. It being clear, you come out of the tunnel and you're deep in fog and can't see a thing. So you got to be really careful about the weather around here because it can really affect the riding conditions. That's it. Here we go. So, got about 1K to go for my 30-kilometer climb to Craggy Gardens. And this is typical of what you find up here often. It's foggy. So, unfortunately, can't see very much. but it's been like this the whole ride, so it's kind of expected. Anyway, we'll see how the rest is. The next 20K to the top of Mount Mitchell. Probably pretty bad up there too. So I just descended the backside of Craggy Gardens, heading towards Mount Mitchell on the, I don't know, 5-kilometer descent. And this is the only part really where the sky has opened up a bit and you have a bit of a view.